Welcome back to the OpenUK Mini-Moo lessons. This is lesson 2, and it's called Harmony Glove. You can start and stop this video at each step if you need more time to keep up with the lesson. Matthew has a problem to solve. He wants to play in the school band. He doesn't have a musical instrument to play, but he does have a Mini-Moo glove. He wants some help building and coding it so that it plays different notes as he tilts his hand in different directions, like Imogen Heap. In today's lesson, you will help Matthew. By doing this, you will learn about event handlers, loops, and selection using an if statement. And you will play a range of different musical notes. You will also learn about who uses open source software. You will need your assembled Mini-Moo glove from lesson 1, the Make Code web coding editor, and a small piece of music to play along with. Okay, let's get started. Because the display of the microbit is hidden inside the glove, it's always useful to play a short sound when the microbit code first starts, so that you know it's working. To do this, slot a play note C 1/16 into the onStart event block. This code will run only once when your code first starts, which is either when you slide the power switch on the battery pack to the on position or when you press the small reset button on the back of the microbit. 1/16 is a very short note length, so it will make a tiny pip sound when your code starts. Next, we need some event handlers. An event handler is a block that can accept any number of other blocks of code. Your microbit will follow those instructions whenever that event in the real world happens. The on tilt left event handler will detect that you have tilted the glove to the left and follow the instructions that you slot inside that event handler. You will need 4 different event handlers for this project. Why not place all of them in the programming area first? Then you can slot instructions into them. If you look inside the input palette, you will see an on-shake event handler, and you can use the drop-down list in that to select any of the gestures that the microbit supports. Find the event handlers for on-tilt left, on-tilt right, on-screen up, and on-logo up, and place them in the programming area. Musical notes A, D, and E all work well together. So, from the music palette, slot a ring tone into the up, left, and right event handlers, and choose the correct notes from the piano keyboard by clicking onto the note. A ringtone will play that note continuously until it is stopped. Now would be a good time to download the code onto your microbit and try it out to make sure that it works and that there aren't any mistakes in your program. Do that now and see if it works correctly. You may have noticed that your glove plays all of the notes continuously, and there's no way to stop the sound. To improve on this, let's add the final gesture, which will stop the sound. This gesture is on logo up, which means when the face logo on the microbit is pointing up to the sky, the code in the event handler will run. This is a really useful gesture on the glove for stopping things because it looks a bit like you're holding your hand up into a stop position. If you always choose gestures that are obvious to you, you will find your glove programs are easier to use. Find in the music palette a rest block and slot it into the on logo up event handler. If you set the rest time to a really small value, let's choose 1/16, you will find that your glove is more responsive to faster movements of your hands. Okay, so let's see if that makes your glove work more like an instrument. Flash the new code onto your microbit and try it out again, holding your hand up in a stop position between some notes to insert gaps. There is one more trick we can do to turn this into a super intelligent musical glove. In music, a cadence refers to the ending of a piece of music, and it is usually played in a standard order so that they sound like the end of the music. For the notes A, D, and E that your glove plays, a natural ending or cadence is the sequence A, D, E, A. And you know how to play sequences of notes already from the Jingle Glove lesson. We could use an on-shake gesture here, but you may find that with all the tilting and movement of the glove for the other notes, that your ending sequence misfires and keeps playing when you don't want it to. To fix this, let's write a piece of code that makes a new gesture, which is a hard shake. The device inside the microbit that senses gestures is called an accelerometer because it measures acceleration forces. It is just like the chip inside a mobile phone that decides which way up your phone is. But there isn't an event handler in MakeCode that senses a hard shake. So let's build our own. The blue forever block is a loop, and it will loop round and round forever, repeatedly following any instructions that you slot into it. From the logic palette, find the if block and slot it into forever. The if block is a selection statement because it will select different outcomes. It is sometimes also called a conditional because the instructions inside it are only followed based on a condition that you give. The condition we want to sense is when the microbit is being shaken very hard. If you look back in the input palette, you will find a rounded block called acceleration. Drop this into the programming area and change it from X to strength. The strength is a measure of how hard the microbit is being shaken in all directions. Also, look in the logic palette and drop one of the comparison blocks into the programming area and change it to a greater than sign. Join all these blocks together inside the if statement and use the number 2000, which will require quite a strong shake to register the movement. And drop your notes into the middle of the if block. So let's just review our changes here. If the acceleration strength is greater than 2000, then the microbit will play your sequence of 4 notes. That's great. Flash your code onto the microbit and test it out again, making sure that all of the existing tilt and stop gestures still work, and that when you shake your glove really hard, it plays your sequence of notes. You might like to experiment with the number 2000 to change the sensitivity. If the number is smaller, it will be more sensitive, and if the number is bigger, it will be less sensitive. Well done! You have just turned your Mini Moo glove into a musical instrument, and you've even added in your own custom gesture. Matthew will be very pleased with your new programme and is already looking forward to teaming up with his friend Andy, who knows 10 great songs that he can play with just the notes A, D and E. You might like his YouTube channel here. If you have friends who play a musical instrument, why don't you team up with them and see if you can play along using your musical glove? The notes A, D and E are part of a musical technique called the 3-chord trick. And there are many bands who write and perform songs with just 3 chords. You might like to try to Google for guitar chords A, D, E and research to find some songs that you like and see if you can play along with them. You could also look through the other gestures of the microbit. Here they are. And add more notes to your musical instrument, which will widen the number of songs that you can play along with. Let's finish off by thinking a bit more about open source. We know that open source code is the program listing. But who uses open source? Well, you do. You're a user of open source already because the MakeCode web coding editor that you've just been using is open source. So is the Mini Moo glove, as well as these lessons, and a large amount of the code that makes the microbit work is also open source. By being a user of open source, you're learning about coding, and you benefit because you're making your own product ideas based on the existing source code provided to you by others. Well, that's the end of the lesson for now. Don't forget to experiment with adding more gestures and more notes to your musical glove, and fine-tune the sensitivity of your new shake gesture so it works just right. We'll see you again at the next lesson.